This is my friend Tom. Tom lives in this beautiful region in Chile called
the Maipo Valley.
He's a natural resources engineer. He loves to raft and go trekking in the mountains. And he has a daughter.
That is little girl is my daughter that also loves this river.
See, the Maipo River is very significant to Tom and other locals.
This river gives life to all this valley, the Maipo Valley, control the temperature of this place, gives water to vegetation and animals, and control that the glacier doesn't melt so fast, and also gives water to 7 million people in Chile that live in the capital of Chile, Santiago. So this is the 40% of this country that is supported by this beautiful river.
But their beautiful home is under threat.
Our beautiful place here in Chile, affected by this hydroelectric project called Aldo from a United States company and an Austrian company. This project wants to take all these 3 rivers, put it in a huge tunnel of 70 kilometers long, and transport all this water for all these mountains and return it close to Santiago.
And this threat has a lot to do with Aldo shoes. You know Aldo, right? The shoe and accessories company that has been recently all over social media and influencers' feeds, bragging about being carbon neutral so that you can go buy more of their shoes. Now, before I can explain to you the connection between Aldo shoes and Chile, we actually need to take a step back and travel to Switzerland. So Aldo is certified carbon neutral by this Swiss company called South Pole. And from what I can gather, South Pole advises companies on how to reduce their emissions, and they also invest in carbon reducing projects. So as an example, they invest in this project called Velafrica, where they take recycled bicycles from Switzerland and export them to African countries. The project promotes carbon-free mobility and business opportunities in Africa. Sounds like a really great thing, right? Well, the way South Pole works is that they start this project and then they assume that every person they give a bicycle to in Africa, that person then doesn't need to buy a motorbike, and therefore that person is reducing their carbon emissions. And South Pole comes in then and claims those carbon emission reductions as carbon credits, and then they can sell those carbon credits to companies like Aldo. I mean, to me, they're not actually reducing CO2, they're just giving someone that doesn't have any mode of transportation a bike, which is great, but then they're not actually reducing CO2, but we're gonna get into that later. South Pole doesn't care about making money. No, of course not. They care about reducing their climate impact, which is why on their website, under the topic, why choose to offset your carbon emissions, they have written, because it's great for winning new customers, increasing brand awareness, attracting and retaining employees, building resilience in supply chains, and building a reputation. I can't believe that in this list they didn't actually include reducing the amount of carbon you release is good, because then you reduce the amount of carbon you release. So let's go into the projects they invest in, shall we? We see on this website that they have around 4 solar projects and 12 hydroelectric projects in developing countries. Interesting imbalance of investments. So if we click on this project here, it's actually more like 100 hydropower projects, because right here it says that they've built 88 small hydropower projects in China. Okay, they also claim on this webpage that these small hydropower projects are clean. Now this is really interesting, because I know for a fact that small hydropower has been little studied by scientists and is little regulated by governments. And in fact, several governments, including China, use the word small in small hydropower as a criterion to apply less strict environmental regulations, even though the word small is classified differently in different countries. As an example, both India and Switzerland don't require a formal environmental impact impact assessment for dams less than 25 megawatts and 3 megawatts respectively. And in China, a small hydropower plant is considered one with a capacity of less than 50 megawatts. Interesting, because this project says that all of their small hydropower plants have a capacity of between 0.1 and 14 megawatts. So what I want to know from South Pole is, how is it possible to claim something is clean if you haven't checked that it's clean? If you haven't checked that it has no impact on the people, on the environment, on the water quality, on the surrounding landscape? South Pole, did you do an environmental impact assessment? Because I can tell you, I cannot find anything on your website telling me about the impact that these small hydropower plants have on the sediment, biodiversity, people, land, etc. Would you get mad at me if I said it gets worse? They write here that this group of 88 small hydropower plants actually mitigate 400 tons of CO2 annually. But they're basing this claim on the fact that they built a hydropower plant and not a coal-fired power plant. I'm sorry, but did they decommission a coal-fired power plant? Was there a coal-fired power plant in operation that they decided to then replace with a hydropower plant? I don't think so. And in their calculations, did they include the fact that this new hydropower plant actually also emits CO2 and methane during its construction and throughout its lifetime? You can't just claim something is reducing CO2 if it's actually producing CO2. This led me to think, who the hell certified these projects? So that's what led me to VCS, or Verified Carbon Standard, by this organization called Verra. They claim to be the world's leading voluntary greenhouse gas program, and they certified these 88 hydropower projects in China. So why don't we go into their database and see what kind of projects they're certifying. So if we scroll down, we see they have over 1,500 projects. Let's see how many hits we get if we type in solar. Okay, around 54 projects. What happens if we type in hydro? Almost 300 projects. Again, interesting imbalance of investments. Could it perhaps be because you make more money from hydropower than solar power? So now if I look through some of these hydropower projects, I see that a lot of them are actually in China. A lot in China. So let's just organize by country. Let's try China. Okay, we see one here, less than 25 megawatt capacity. Another one right here, less than 25 megawatt capacity.
Another one right here, less than 25 megawatt capacity, less than 25 megawatts, less than 25 megawatts. Another one.
There were too many small hydropower plants in China. It just keeps going. 3.75 megawatts. All this tells me is that these verified carbon neutral projects have had no environmental impact assessments done. China seemed to have a lot of hydropower projects, and also Chile. So why don't we see what kind of projects are going on in Chile? Look at this one. Alto hydroelectric project. This one is in Tom's region. But at this point, you're probably sick of hearing from me. So why don't we actually go to Tom and ask him how he feels about these projects?
This project said a lot of lies. Other lie that they say that they're not going to contaminate water or other places here in our home. But this is a lie. They are putting a lot of waste and contamination that they take from the tunnels and from oil from machine directly to the streams. Other thing that they are not fulfilling is they are mixing different quality of water in this tunnel. So they are mixing water that is used for irrigation, water that is used for the city, and putting in this huge tunnel without either considering the quality of this water. Also, when this huge machine that are drilling the mountain, they release a lot of heavy metals. These heavy metals contaminate the water. They say that they're gonna plant a lot of trees because of the intervention that they are doing, but all these trees are dry. There's a place called here in Cajón del Maipo called the Valle de las Arenas, that is a paleontological protected place, and Alto Maipo is damaged all that beautiful valley. And also in Chile, the citizen participation on project is really weak. Only they told you what they're gonna do, and they don't ask you if you really want or you don't want this project. So it's a complex thing, but the community now, like 10 years later of this project, is not supporting much.
So I actually emailed all of my questions to South Pole and to Aldo Shoes. South Pole, of course, didn't get back to me, and Aldo emailed me back telling me to call their customer service line in order to better assist me. I did call 7 times. The first time, they hung up on me. She just hung up. The second time, they forwarded me to voicemail and didn't get back to me. And the rest of the times, they just didn't answer their phones. So Aldo, on your website you claim to purchase renewable energy credits and carbon credits from wind and hydropower plants. Tell me, which river are you destroying in order to call yourself carbon neutral?